to Breaking Par with Bernard Sheridan, the golf instruction podcast that helps you take control of your game. Now, here's your host, the founder of Par Breakers Golf Academy and certified Golf Channel Swing Fix instructor, Bernard Sheridan.
So, Brian, it's great to see you and to have you on Breaking Par. Welcome.
It's good to be on the show. Really looking forward to it.
So, lately, as I've seen on social media, because I know that we chat on social media and things like that, some of the groups that we hang out in, that you've been crazy busy like the past year and a half.
Yeah, I'd say more or less 2 years. I was thinking about something that happened in 2011. Well, I didn't know it was 2011. I was looking at my computer at my house, and it's a 2011 27-inch iMac. So I'm getting some information because I'm going to upgrade something in it, and I'm realizing, wow, that's 4 years ago. Almost 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So since around that time, it's been busier and busier and busier. And then there was a really concentrated area, toward the end of last year and well into this year that been to 8 countries and plenty of states and plenty of cities. And the good thing is, though, my Delta Sky Miles is now gold.
Oh, well, that's always nice because you got some free air coming to you probably soon because of that.
Yes, sir. 12,000 a platinum. So
wow, holy moly!
It's good to be busy because the goals that I've had for a long time in the business. There's no way to do them sitting on your hands at home or just showing up and teaching at a location, which is nothing against that. It's just I've done that. And now, if I'm going to, build my brand and get to the next level, I have to go on the road.
I agree, and you definitely have been building your brand for sure. That a lot more instructors know who you are, and then of course a lot more of golfers around the country due to your becoming a top 100. Congratulations on that. And a lot of the other achievements that you have accomplished throughout your career, it's all really coming to a head now. It seems to me as I watch. I'm one of those guys who kind of sits back and does all that I can, but also kind of pays attention to what's going on with all the other people, and also really enjoy seeing guys like yourself. Who in my opinion is a great guy, get to where you want to go through all that hard work. You do a ton of hard work, and it's really starting to pay off.
I think the one thing that I would want to say before we kind of get into the meat of the conversation is that there's a lot of probably young instructors probably watch this, right? Because I mean I'd have been all over the Ben Doyle would have did something like this when he was 53. I was, I hadn't, I guess, met him yet at that point.
Yeah.
You have to keep an open mind. There's a reason why something's working, even if it's something that is flawed. There's a reason, and you want to know what that reason is, even if it's the guy in the next stall teaching. Why is he busy? He doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, okay, but there's a reason, right? Maybe he's got the guy paid off that answers the telephone. Okay, well then you gotta. So there's always something to be learned, and the best thing I can suggest to people trying to move up in the business is to learn from as many people as possible and keep an open mind.
I totally agree, and that's part of the big reason why I do this podcast. Is to be able not only for myself to learn more from talking to other instructors and their insight, but for the other instructors that are out there at large to have a vehicle that they can go to and gather some information and hear from some of the best instructors in the world what they're doing and things of that nature. So it's definitely, I agree, you have to have an open mind. So speaking of an open mind, I know that you're trying to open a lot of people's minds to what is really going on in the golf swing and trying to dig up the truth. I think that that's really what you've been trying to do for quite a while now. So give us a little bit of insight on what you found and and what your journey has brought you to over the past 2 years.
I was really lucky in a lot of ways coming up, and we had a tour event here in New Orleans since the 30s, and I started going in 1970, and so I could plainly see that Lee Trevino, Orville Moody, and Miller Barber hit it really good, and they didn't swing like you were supposed to, so to speak. So I've always had in my mind there's something that people are doing, right, that hit the ball good versus the people that are almost good, right? That's the biggest gap in golf is not from the 100 shooter to the 80 shooter, or from the 80 shooter to the par shooter, or from the par shooter to the +5. That none of those are anywhere near as big a gap as the +4 or 5 to the tour player. That's the biggest gap, and all that other stuff, right? All those little things that you could just look with your eyes and all this kind of that nobody was ever going to get to the answer of what the best players were really doing by just watching. And then video was nice because you could stop something, but at the end of the day, what was going to have to happen and happen to me and my friends that are on a similar journey is that you were going to have to figure out from the sciences what was really going on. And since none of us are scientists, and that goes for any golf pro that I know of, you were going to have to go to scientists to get them to explain how physics and different things apply to golf swings. And we've learned a lot. And one of the things that I would say is the biggest thing I've learned is how much resistance there is from the people who don't want it to be right.
Ain't that the truth?
You know what I mean? It's just so like, but Manzella, he listens to scientists, but that doesn't make it science. I'll tell you how goofy a statement like that is. I have a couple big articles coming up in the magazines, and one of them is in Golf Magazine. And the first full version of it, I did myself. I do a lot of layout. And I've done a lot of stuff in the magazine. So just go ahead and do it the way in a perfect world, and then we'll take that, and then we'll – as a matter of fact, we just really had the meeting on it, and it's going to be great. It's going to be on the pullback, run up, and jump, which is just a movement of the left shoulder during the swing. It's going to open a lot of eyes. Well, anyway, I wrote that article, and before I turned it in, I sent it to Dr. Kwan. Dr. Young-Hoo Kwan at Texas Women's University in Denton. Now the whole world knows who he is because of Chris Como and Tiger. And he changed one word. He changed shear force to horizontal force, and he found 3 typos, and I'm not much of a speller. So if anybody doesn't think that I'm smart enough, or everybody thinks I'm dumb enough, that I'm going to have like a big 7, 8, 9-page spread in a major magazine, and I have all of these guys on speed dial, I'm not going to have them check my work. Not that smart, because I'm smarter than that. But I'd say the biggest thing that we've learned lately, right, is the interaction of the things that are the hardest to see, right? You have the golfer, you and your hands and the club. You have a center of mass, right? Yep. And then that golf club has a center of mass that never was talked about. It's like if you take the balance point of the club and you balance it on your finger, and then you take into account the toes hanging down, so it's a little bit off the shaft. So you have a center of mass, the club has a center of mass, the club head and the 4 or 5 inches of shaft have a center of mass, right? You got a club face that everybody knows about.
Sure.
And then you have the forces from the ground acting on your body in the club, and the forces that you have at your hands acting on the club. And everything else revolves around that. And it's sort of interesting that the further we've gotten in, the clearer it becomes, right? The so-called forest for the trees. It's like all it is just these 2 interactions going on to produce professional impact, right? And the great part about it is, so like, the person listening going, well, why would I even want to know? Because then you know why Ernie Els can lay the club down and Mr. Fabersham keeps getting on top of it. Now you know why. It's not even you say, well, all you have to do is learn to do this, right? But what is the this? We know that Ernie's laying it down and Fabersham's coming over the top of it, but there's a reason, right? Ernie Els is putting a force this way on the handle that's causing this end to go down, and Mr. Fabersham's doing the opposite. It's always interesting to me that people have looked at golf swings for a long time on video and everything, and they've just missed some really, really basic things. And I've been right there with them. It's like there is a reason for every little detail of the golf swing and why certain swings work and certain swings don't. And it's been a lot of fun learning it. And there's so much to learn. I mean, by no means are we anywhere near all the answers. And one of the things I start my seminars with is nobody knows everything about the golf swing, and nobody is ever going to know everything. It's just too much. It's just too big. But we can get to where we understand the swing good enough to really do a better job of helping golfers as teachers. I think as an industry we don't really do.
So in that study of that, you found that there's that huge disparity between that plus handicap and a Tour Pro. How for the majority, I don't want to say the majority of our listeners, but a bulk of our listeners and a bulk of the guys who are teaching our listeners, what I have found is that a lot of them are teaching like somewhere between a high single digit to about a 20. So how are we going to use this information to help those guys? Is it going to be easier for us to help those guys, or is it going to be easier us to help the more higher player who wants to break through and get out on tour?
Great question. One of the things is that it hadn't been a study that I've come up with that's the biggest gap. I mean, I just think if you teach every little gap, this is 32 years of teaching. That's the hardest one to, you give me a scratch player that'll work all day, every day, has got some athletic ability, I'll make him a +4 or 5. And I've done it a bunch. Taking just some guy who's a +4 or 5. And look, I got one right now. He's been playing golf about 6 or 7 years. He's shot 66, 67, or 67, 68. Doesn't matter. Still good scores.
Yeah.
In an official golf tournament against guys who have been playing golf for 40 years and blew their Hans right out of the water. That guy will tell you, he would do a podcast with you to tell you how far he is from David Toms or from Rory McIlroy. That's a big golf, and part of that is ability, and part of that is things that go on upstairs, right? Mm. But knowing how the golf swing really works, to me, makes it much, much easier to teach the basic stuff to golfers, because you get a lot of like, what is the thing that you would teach first? We were having that discussion today. One of my lucky breaks in this business is I've got a group of guys that are like-minded, that we all collaborate a lot and challenge each other. And today we had 3 of them on the phone, which happens almost every day. And we're having a conversation. We're talking about what would be the number one thing you would teach somebody, that was a new golfer, brand new golfer. And I know, what I've done since I started teaching, different things. And I think I would answer that question differently now, knowing what I know, than at any point, in the 32 years I've been teaching. I think that the obvious stuff is easy, right? I mean, you give me somebody who's playing the part of a golfer in a movie and he's never played golf before, and I've got 6 weeks, we're going to fool everybody. I'll teach them all the mannerisms and waggling and walking into the ball and how to throw grass up in the air. That's easy. Once you've done that, what is it that you're going to do with this golfer? Well, you're going to teach them to use the ground to orient their body. That's the hardest thing in the golf swing. You can get people to make an arm. If you sat everybody in a